Good afternoon. I am Andreas Kengelaris. I am the Dean of the College of Engineering, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to the first this year of the Engineering at Illinois Dean's Distinguished Leadership Lectures. With a long-standing tradition and international reputation of leadership, impact, and collaboration, Engineering at Illinois is committed to the intellectual and societal development of future generations. This lecture series brings eminent leaders and foremost experts to the campus to share knowledge and facilitate discussions among students, faculty, alumni, and the community on important challenges impacting the global society, with particular emphasis on our college's responsibilities as a global leader in engineering education and innovation in response to grand challenges. Today's theme is one that I'm sure matters to each and every one of us: preparing for success, cultivating and sustaining the individual leadership necessary to meet the changing and growing needs of our global society. And it's my pleasure to welcome one of the world's most innovative and successful visionary leaders, Mark Templeton, President and CEO of Citrix. Mark earned his bachelor's degree in product design from North Carolina State University and an MBA from the University of Virginia's Darden School of Business. He is responsible for the market direction of Citrix, as well as product strategy, and has a personal passion for customer care. Citrix solutions and products enable mobile work styles for millions of people every day in over 100 countries. Mark Templeton joined the company in 1995 as Vice President of Marketing, prior to the company's initial public offering. He was appointed President in 1998 and Chief Executive Officer in 2001. Under his leadership, Citrix has been transformed from a 15 million organization to a global leader with annual revenues of $2.6 billion in 2012. In July 2012, Citrix acquired Bytmobile, a leading provider of data and video optimization solutions for mobile network operators. Bytmobile's core technology is rooted in the research in computer architectures and wireless network performance optimization that was done by our colleague, EC Professor Konstantin Polychronopoulos here at Illinois. Konstantin is currently serving as the Vice President and CTO of the service provider platforms of Citrix. We are proud that Bytmobile has operated a research and development facility in the University of Illinois' Research Park since 2006 and continues to grow its presence as Citrix Bytmobile. Mark leads the Citrix vision for a world where people, IT, and businesses can experience work and life in harmony. He guides the unique Citrix culture by emphasizing values of respect, integrity, innovation, and fun. I can't think of a more fitting business leader than Mark Templeton to share his view on preparing for success in this day and age where a virtual world has to learn a lot about living peacefully and having fun in a virtual context. Mark, welcome.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the kind words, Dean Kengelaris. And, you know, every time I really don't like those introductions, but, you know, I don't have any choice, you know, it's in the bio. But every time I hear them, I only wish that my mother were here to hear those really sweet words. You know? But instead of my mom, I have my beautiful wife with me today. And it's always fun to travel together. And I love for her to be part of these kinds of events where we talk about, you know, really where we've come, our journey, and where we're going, and a lot of the whys and wherefores, and just try to share what we've learned along the way in building a great company, building a great culture, and really having the joy and privilege of amazing good fortune, good luck, and blessings along the way. So, you know, really special thanks for coming out to listen this afternoon. And I'm really honored and privileged to be here. You know, first visit here, and when we were talking to the driver coming from the airport, and we asked, gee, is Champaign known as a college town? And he said no. And then we asked him, later in the conversation, well, if you could sort of name, what's the number one thing you think about when you hear Champaign? He goes, UI. Right? So I said to him, look, in the technology industry, when people hear Champaign, UI, Urbana-Champaign, it's an icon. These are hallowed grounds for some amazing technologies, innovations, inventions, hardcore research, and producing some of the world's most amazing entrepreneurs in the industry that have had amazing impact. So, it really is, a joy to be here. And we're learning a lot more about what's going on here by visiting, but also because your former professor, now part of the Citrix team, Konstantin Polychronopoulos, is teaching us a lot. And so when I think of Konstantin, I think of this, glowing orb of passion, and so first it's really about technology and science and people doing those things. The second is about this university and all of you, all right? Great passion there. And the third is Greece. I mean, he could be the ambassador for Greece, and now after meeting Andreas, I can see that they're, in cahoots together. But, this is a fun, opportunity for me. I like talking to people when they're at the front end of their careers and trying to find their way and really chart a path into the future. And I have a core belief that companies are people, okay? They have personalities, they have values, they have life cycles and hard times and good times, and growth is not linear. Growth comes in bursts and cycles, and doesn't come without lots of opportunity to learn and build character along the way. So when I was asked for a title for a talk, I had no idea what to title a talk, and I asked Konstantin. He gave me this great email reply, which basically said, just come and tell the story of Citrix and how we've grown and the ideas underlying the growth, and then how that's been part of your own journey. And because I think what we can learn from it, can be very valuable. So that's what I'm going to try to do. And I was thinking first, when I was in college, I had no idea what success was, what defined success for me. So here I am, circa 1972. So dazed look, of course, and North Carolina State University at the College of Design, and I was studying product design. And I had no idea how to chart a course into the future. I just knew the number one thing for me was to always work on something that I had passion for, that I believed in, and I could, capture with my heart. And my biggest fear was to be, from some practical perspective, forced to not do that because of economics. I grew up in a very, very modest family. My dad is an electrician, and, I had to fend for myself. So, I always had that fear that, I'd be stuck in something that I was bored and I wasn't inspired by, and I'd have to do it because I wouldn't have any choice. So, I think in this time, I was going to school and working 20 hours a week and doing a lot of things to get through. But, I had a lot of dreams, and North Carolina State really created a foundation for me at the College of Design because it taught me critical thinking. The other thing it taught me is that just because you study something doesn't mean that's where your future is. So part of your entire life can be built around, pursuing multiple generations of passions. And I'll try to show you some of that in the story here, not only of Citrix, but even my own. So let's talk a little bit about Citrix. First, we touch a lot of people. That's an incredible privilege and obligation. So We have lots and lots of customers around the world. About 100 million people, get work done, in a core kind of way every single day using our various products. We have a big presence in the infrastructure of the internet, so we touch about 75% of all users of the internet, and probably, now with Byte Mobile on the team, that number could actually be larger given the presence we have in the core carrier networks around the world. So big touch. And then our commitment to Zen, the Zen open source community, the Apache Cloud Stack community, makes us, hugely privileged to be touching people and companies through cloud infrastructure. So Zen powers, most of the public clouds. They're not built on VMware products. They're not built on Microsoft products. They're actually built on Zen. So when you go to Amazon Web Services, Zen is at the core there. So we're very, privileged to now have a huge touch. And this year we'll do about $3 billion in revenue. We have, about almost 9,000 employees. And, we, have a lot of people that we can, wake up every day and believe that we're serving in really, really important ways. And, it's a time when I think, we are preparing for our next generation of success by looking into the future and having a point of view. So the first thing I'd say in preparing for the future is you have to have a point of view about the future that you believe in so much that you're willing to invest and bet your career, your money, your time, whatever it is, you're going to bet on it. And so when we look into the future, we see these massive transformations going on. And these are three big ones. We see transformations in how people work, literally workflow, how transactions happen and how they're getting simpler and more direct and more and more connected in a collaborative kind of way. Secondly is a complete reinvention of the workplace. So, companies are literally flipping the model over, going from dedicated offices, kind of one person per office, to open, flexible workspaces that are not only much more economic, they're much more collaborative and actually produce better business results. And it's been proven over and over again. So there's a massive reinvention going on there. And then, there's an incredible amount of workforce engagement going on where companies competing for talent are realizing that how well they engage the workforce really has everything to do with their lifeblood, and that is attracting great people, keeping great people by motivating them through having great engagement. So we think these forces are the things that will power our next generation of growth and success. And so we think there's a revolution going on in something we call mobile work styles. And mobile work styles are really this entirely mobile-centric, mobile-first, everyone assumed to be mobile, whether it's literally or locally mobile, so that businesses and people and IT can actually achieve entirely new levels of productivity and agility, because today, more and more and more in a global economic environment, speed matters. Okay, so it's, ideas, yes, innovation, yes, but the speed you can move at in terms of bringing them to market, creating them, bringing them to market, and driving them forward matters hugely. So this is what's powering our future, and why we have built a company that has a diverse set of products. It's another sort of key thing in preparing for success. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, okay? And we have 6 major lines of business in collaboration with one of the top in the world with our GoToMeeting product. In data sharing, we have one of the biggest data sharing and sync and mobile document services in the world. We have a new mobile platforms group for driving the ability to work across any device and deploy applications securely and smoothly. We're one of the biggest in the world in cloud networks, both in the carrier network and the enterprise network through our NetScaler product line and technologies and Byte Mobile. And then we have a cloud platforms business that really is about the fundamental orchestration for compute, storage, and networking for cloud services. So when we look at this, it really is about having an infrastructure end-to-end so people can work anywhere and IT services can be made anywhere. And connecting those two things in a way that allows people to work mobile by default. And so when we think of Citrix and what defines us, it's this. It's about being a company that's totally focused on the range of technologies that allow us to deliver mobile work styles either directly over the web or through system integration partners or through great enterprise customers and small businesses around the world. So that's what we're about. And if you look at the mix of business, it looks something like this. Now, no big deal to you, but if you look back 10 years, this is what it looked like. Okay, so it's been quite an interesting 10-year journey going from one product and a concentration in one space to a much larger diversified portfolio that gives us lots of optionality, okay, as well as the ability to integrate these things in unique ways for customers. Before I do this, so back in 2001, it was pretty ugly actually. We had a decent year, but we were facing our first actually decline in revenue. And we had one product, we had one way to get it to customers, and that was a problem. And we faced the notion of, do we sell the company or do we charge forward? And if we're going to charge forward, what direction do we go? So we decided to charge forward. We thought we had the stuff and the energy and the passion and the vision. And the hardest thing in software is to explain what your strategy is. And we decided to actually capture it in a video. So we made a video in 2001 we called The Virtual Workplace. And this video was our idea of how people could work in the future. And we had some specific ideas of our role in that. And this video, there's no audio to this. I'm not going to show you the video. You're just going to see some scenes. But it really is about, giving people the kind of mobility they need. So being able to smoothly roam from a big screen to a small screen device, a device that integrates nicely, here in this case, the car, has the kind of advanced security we probably still don't have today. Text to voice, voice to text. The idea of building a flexible workspace that allows you to gather the content really easily together and then collaborate, moving again to a large screen and collaborate across all kinds of boundaries, whether they're geographic boundaries, time zone boundaries, or organizational boundaries. And then in the end, getting a great business result and also balancing all of that with some harmony with life. So, that was, our idea, our set of ideas, and literally a group came together in the company, and it's like, let's get on the whiteboard and what are the 10, really big ideas that we really believe in, all right? And it took a little time, and then we decided to make it into a video. And this video, by the way, when we were really excited to show it to customers and partners, and it completely flopped. Completely. They said, man, you guys are smoking some good stuff down there in Florida, okay? So, but what happened is that our product teams, our scientists, our architects, our engineers, they said, oh, so that's what you want to do, all right? And they went off and started to do it. And it became an organizational focus. And we're still driving, by the way, that vision. Because there are many things that are undone. If you want to see the full version, you can go out. It's on YouTube. It's called The Virtual Workplace. But this has led us through three eras in the company's life cycle. The first era, we were, very much a toddler, and our total focus was on remote access, just connecting people to apps over dial-up connections and then the internet. And the problem we solved were apps were fat and pipes were thin, and people needed to work remotely. It was really, really simple, one product. And then we had this virtual workplace idea, and it really expanded our horizons. And what we did is it really it gave us a lot of headroom. So you want to grow? It's like, move the ceiling up and, define the space in terms that make sense for you. And that was an era defined by something we call virtual computing. And these transitions, by the way, they take several years when we go through them. All right, so it's, again, just like people. You don't go from being a toddler to a young adult overnight, or adolescent, I should say, overnight. There's a process involved. And so these are, a few years in the making. We're now working on our next cycle, actually, transforming the workplace and the workforce, which will, is all around what I talked about earlier in terms of mobile work styles. And we're in that transformation right now, which is a several-year transformation that's, defined by, you can see it in the numbers here. So, great results. We're very proud of these. About the last 10 years, an average growth rate of over 17%. But you can see it's been anything but a smooth up and to the right without any bumps kind of an experience. And no path to success is linear, and success is not an end point. It's a journey, and it's a life's journey, and success, has ups and downs and sideways that are important for fueling, kind of what you'll do next always. But, I think the most important thing is the foundation that you have in terms of your principles and your beliefs. And a core one for us is that we are obligated to create value first for a customer and for employees before we have the right to then capture it. Okay? Lots of companies want to, find customers and lock them in to their business model, and we don't believe in that. And so, a friend of mine actually gave me this expression, and I cleverly added again and again, because it is a constant cycle of invention and reinvention over the course of the pursuit of the success journey. So we at Citrix, try to keep things as simple as we can, and we've used a very simple value formula. Now, you probably have heard the term shareholder value. It's a very common term used on Wall Street with investors, et cetera, and I hate the term, okay, because shareholder value drives companies to engineer themselves around financial as opposed to engineer themselves around something that I believe is long-term and value-based. So this is our formula for value, okay? It's about culture and empathy by creating employee value, which is an amazing culture that people want to be part of and we can be proud of, and customer value by displaying empathy for the problems and challenges that customers face. And if you create employee value and customer value every single day, for now Citrix is about 24 years old this year, you get some amazing results. By the way, you saw the financial chart, so you do get shareholder value, all right, but it's an outcome, and it's actually not the most important outcome. To me, the most important outcome for this formula is this equals pride, and pride is the thing that powers multiple generations of a company's life. And with that kind of pride and, in the core of a business, then anything's possible. Culture has been a really important aspect of our formula, as you can tell here. And I'd say that, it's something that is one of the hardest things to create in a business. And so when we talk about culture, we have a very specific language about it, and it's a language that starts with values, human values. And so there are 4 human values that we look for and really demand in everyone that's part of the company and that wants to be a long-term member of the team. So the first is humility. Okay, now that sounds a little warm and fuzzy. It's really about putting obligation before opportunity. So serving the customer you have and solving their problems before you actually go to the next. And it's about obligation to your team and your partners before your own, and putting someone else first. It's really simple, all right? But I find this value has been incredibly important to our brand and how customers and partners see us and our ability to engage with them on a continuous basis as part of the fabric of the company. The second is integrity. Pretty straightforward. It's about always doing the right thing and following 3 rule books. Lots of people, can follow the written rules. Some can't. I think we've seen that. But written rules matter, okay? There are the unwritten rules, okay? And then there are the rules of common sense. And we hold people accountable from an integrity point of view to all 3 of those, and never let anyone ask anyone in the company to do something that violates any of those 3. Doesn't mean we don't make mistakes, but we don't make mistakes of integrity. Third is respect. Now, respect is important because if you want to be global, you have to be able to operate in cultures around the world, business cultures, social cultures around the world. And, lots and lots, I think, of U.S. companies can get the mindset that we're right, everyone else needs to do it our way. So, we have this basic respect in the business. But more than that, it actually means that hierarchy is not a proxy for respect. So if you look at, cultures, very common business culture, the higher you are in the hierarchy, the more respect you get. The lower you are in the hierarchy, the less respect you get. We never get confused by hierarchy. We accept it as, people hate when I say this, as a necessary evil, okay, of managing complexity. Because every complex organism, whether it's an organization or a biological thing or a piece of software, okay, needs hierarchical structure to deal with its complexity. All right? But it takes every single component of that organism to actually make a functioning whole. And we fundamentally believe that, and this drives lots and lots of policies and open doors in the way we communicate and work with each other. Respect. And the last one is conviction. And conviction is all about belief and having honorable aspirations and intentions that you can shamelessly pursue daily, and share those ideas with customers or each other or family, etc., and be proud of them and be so believing in them that you have conviction to get through the really hard times, because they do come. So these are our values, and the way they can be a little hokey, and the way I like to think of it is like this picture, okay? You can do it alone, it's weird, but when you do it in a group, okay, with others, it's a club, all right? And I think the greatest cultures in the world are clubs. They are something that people can belong to. And when people belong to a club because they're getting paid well, it's a problem. You got a problem, all right? Paying properly and competitively is an obligation. That we don't celebrate that. What we celebrate is the things we do that are not obligations, and that is by having this kind of a culture that celebrates people. Now, there are these 3 pieces. There's people, there are these values, and then what that's manifested in is all kinds of things, ways to get things done. And in our business, we have big software as a service business, we have big networking business, we have big, sort of bare metal infrastructure business, hypervisor technology, et cetera. So,
we have a pretty wide array. And so we need a lot of different processes and ways to get things done. But, we have a common OS to do them on, and that's the value system. So if our culture were a device, it would look like this. People would be the hardware. We'd have one common operating system, our values. And then, the apps are all the ways, all the things we do across all the different types and styles of businesses we're in to get things done on a day-to-day basis. And this is really to me, the thing that powers Citrix, along with these ideas that we've pursued for a long time that I'm not going to, get into today. Not enough time, but we have some very, very core beliefs, that we think play out over a long period of time, and these are not new things, by the way. That work is not a place, okay? That simpler is always better, and it's always the hardest, by the way. And that anyness wins, and anyness is about giving people choices, all right? And that when you give choice, you give customers control of, their destiny, and that, is when you do something great for a customer, you're doing something great for yourself. So this is our formula, and it's the thing that's underlying what Andreas said in his introduction, this thing we call a BHAG. How many people know what a BHAG is? Okay. Do you want to shout it out?
Big, hairy, audacious goal.
Yes. Big, hairy, audacious goal. And it's the big, hairy, audacious, big, hairy, audacious goal that, is always just out of reach, but something you and your team believe in is the thing that actually aligns all of the molecules, all of the people, all of the organization. And this is ours because we fundamentally believe in making the world a better place, leaving it a better place when we move on as individuals, and by helping people work better and live better, and doing that by this core belief that people can have a life where they are experiencing work and life in harmony. So that's our BHAG. And by the way, again, not to bore you with this, but since so many of you are, engineers yourself, so we put the customer value on one side of a pyramid, the employee value on one side, and they all map to each other. The big ideas at the top, and then the fundamental ideas in terms of values on this side, and our persona. If Citrix were a person, how would people say that, describe that person? Well, that person's authentic, okay? They're honorable, they're open, they're courageous. That's our persona. So this is our model for repeating success and having the fundamental platform for doing it over and over again through multiple cycles. I think all of you know how fast the tech industry, technologies, how customers consume them, and their expectations for them, how rapidly all of that is changing right now. And the only way to get through these cycles and drive forward with courage, drive change and evolution, is to have this fundamental platform that'll be sustainable across multiple business cycles. So that's been our formula for success as a company. It's been an amazing journey for me. So here's another shot of me back at NC State. We're out at the Forge here. We were doing a project. So you can see myself in the center, my classmates there. So some people accuse me of that smoke being something else. Trust me, it was the Forge burning. And and again, at the time, I had no expectation for such a rich and amazing journey. And like so many people at this age, all right, I was a fourth-year student at the time. So, like so many at this age, your expectations for yourself are being driven by what your parents' expectations are for you. And it's a big bridge to cross, moving from responding to your parents' expectations to actually responding to your own, okay? And it's a huge thing to celebrate when you move across that bridge. And I think part of doing that is having a mindset that success is not something that happens to someone else, it's something that's going to happen to me. Now, how you define success, can be very broad. I'm not talking about wealth necessarily, but, in fact, I think that's not a great pursuit, all right? But if success is making a difference, having, having real impact on, a community, society, doing something great that you are proud of, any of those things can be your definition of success. So there are 4 things that I would try to, offer to you. So first, seek to make a difference in the world, not make a fortune. I'd say, of all the friends and colleagues and I have and I've known over the years, the pattern I see is those that are out to make a fortune, rarely do. Those who are out to make a difference, all right, often, maybe they don't make a fortune, but they do well. They do fine, and they economically and pride. So that having that motivation. Next is, I'm going to come back to this in a minute, but understanding and having a framework for your life and your career. And I think there are 2 models. There's a model that I call connecting the dots, where you don't have a prescribed picture up front, and across the time you actually draw that picture by connecting things, or paint by numbers, where ahead of time there is a prescribed picture, and you have a prescribed process for filling in the colors. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. But you have to. It's not the difference between what's right and wrong. It's which one is going to work best for you, and then go for it. Third is consistently showing curiosity, persistence, and knowing that good fortune does matter, okay? In fact, I think it matters the most. Good fortune, you can call it luck, you can call it blessings, whatever you want to call it. Actually, I think these are the things that are outside of your own personal control, and they actually account for over 50% of the outcome in your life, in your career. And it's not a fatalistic statement, it's just a statement that, and the things that you do have control of deserve, much more of your intense focus and attention and persistence. And then 4th is, never know it all. Always be a student. That's part of curiosity, I think, and always understand that success is always a work in process. Always, always, always. And then, you'll always be, never feel like you got there. I mean, as we've grown, various times have come along where, people are feeling the pride and feeling, wow, we've made it. It's like, no, that's actually, a very destructive mindset. In fact, I like to, try to get everyone to think small. Because as soon as you start thinking you're big, that's usually the beginning of being smaller. And and that means having a mindset of being a student. I'm always learning, and success is a work in process. So that's what I've can tell you sort of from an individual perspective, and I want to come back to this framework for how you think about your future. So paint by numbers, pretty straightforward. My aunt used to give me a paint by numbers set, for my birthday every year. And what I noticed about that is, you could see ahead of time what the picture was going to be, and all you had to do is match the numbers to the spaces, and you were going to have a pretty darn good, painting that you can say you created yourself. Fantastic. Satisfying, you get the outcome, and it's very prescribed. And I think, many people who have a professional pursuit, can use this model very, very successfully. All right. The other model is a connect the dots model. And that is, you might have some general idea ahead of time, but it takes multiple steps to actually put the picture together and connect and create the lines and strokes, etc., that actually define the picture and define who you are. And it's these two fundamental models. Now, as I said earlier, it's not a matter of which is right and which is wrong, it's which is best for you. Unfortunately, I think most parents, have a paint by numbers, idea for their children, all right? Why? Because it seems lower risk. It seems, clear. It's easy to understand. And especially today in a world that I think is ever more ambiguous and scary for a lot of reasons. But I think that in the end, most people find that connecting the dots is the course they end up on. And whether they understand it ahead of time or not. And so I kind of believe that if you think this through early in your career, then you have and you don't pursue one when the other one is actually the right one and better one for you. You'll have a much richer life and career and experience along the way. And I think connecting dots has to do with a number of things. First of all, is choosing each of those steps well. I mean, there are a lot of choices you make. Attending this university, the classes you choose, the faculty you engage with, the groups that you are part of, the activities you choose, where you spend your time. Then, as you move forward, choosing your first career choice, choosing that well, and building on that. Eventually, you choose a life partner, a spouse, and that those choices make a big difference, et cetera, et cetera. So choosing well and thinking through how you're making the choices. Now, how do you do that? Well, I think, finding your passion, where your fire is, all right, and understanding, fundamental principles that you believe in. And they don't have to be that complicated. You see the ideas that have, formed Citrix. They can fit your ideas, your principles, et cetera, can and should fit on a page maximum, all right? And what you're passionate about. Persistence, it requires connecting dots, requires persistence in practice. And, so you never give up. You keep looking, what's that next thing? What's that next thing? And understanding, is it time to go or not? Using and leveraging family and mentors. Family and mentors are incredibly important in terms of connecting the dots and helping you make those choices. And then, as I said earlier, having lots of blessings, luck, whatever your spiritual and outside of your own control beliefs are, those things, matter as well when you choose these. And by the way, you go forward, you double back, et cetera. That's how these pictures end up looking. And I remember when the first time that I had a huge failure, my company just failed. I was CEO, I was a startup, and I had to, go back and say, what do I think I'm good at? Because I'm not good at that. I failed, all right? And I went back and I said, I'm going to join a small startup and I'm going to be the head of marketing. It worked out great. And I polished my marketing competencies. We sold the company to Intel, okay? So, I think understanding that connecting these dots can mean doubling back and doing things over again and taking a demotion, whatever that might mean to actually get ahead. So here are my dots, not in the form of dots, just in some charts here. So sort of this first set of dots was when I was at NC State, graduated in product design. I made a choice to join a fraternity, Lambda Chi Alpha, and it was a fantastic choice because they taught core values, and I was part of a group whose values I shared. I learned that, and I was fortunate to learn that very early on. And then, I didn't think I was a particularly good product designer, and I got lucky and was hired as a draftsman at a company called Hamlin Sheet Metal and Roofing in Raleigh, North Carolina. And so I used my design skills, to actually be a great draftsman and learn a lot from Fred Hamlin, who, touched my life in a profound way when he said, hey, you know what? You're wasting your time here now. After a couple of years, you need to move ahead, all right? Fred gave me that encouragement, and that was lucky. And that's when I went to the University of Virginia to get my MBA, which was a very improbable thing because I had no idea what the language and ways of business were, which I guess is why I went. And it was a much better school in terms of the quality education than I probably deserved in terms of my talent. But again, good fortune, it does matter. And it made a huge impact on my life. And right out of school, I had 7 job offers, and I chose to go to work for Rubbermaid Industrial Products. And it was a mistake. In fact, in 6 months, I realized I had done the wrong thing. And it was really hard because, at that time, you got out of school, MBA, you were going to be a captain of industry, and then there's the first significant decision you had to make, you made a bad one, all right? I mean, that was really hard to swallow. But I think, being honest about a problem and doing something about it is actually an act of courage and something that, you can be proud of. I always tell people at Citrix that if you see a problem, okay, what I want you to do is I want you to seek to analyze it some. Before you conclude anything and try to solve it, I want you to get up and run to the bathroom. All right? Does anyone know why I want you to run to the bathroom? It's because there's a mirror in there. And I want you to decide, are you the problem? Are you part of the problem? Are you the whole problem? And do that in an honest way first. And then if you honestly, if you are, then start there. Start right there, okay? If you're not, then go back, and start getting after it, right? So that's about sort of seeing a problem and doing something and proactively and with courage. So I went from Rubbermaid to actually a company that offered me the least money, but whose team I felt the best about, okay? And that was at Boise Cascade. And I went from making plastic garbage cans, all right, that have the wheels, to actually making kitchen cabinets in that division for Boise Cascade. And it was a fantastic decision because I learned the value of being part of a great culture. And that could be, something that mattered way more than the products and even what you were getting paid, to be honest. That led me into meeting my bride, and that was the next dot I connected. And we were in the same industry. She was selling countertops. I was selling kitchen cabinets. It was a match made in heaven, And again, good fortune by being, there and connecting that dot, choosing a life partner. We just celebrated our 33rd anniversary, actually. And then, that soon led to choosing a home. That was a big decision, a big choice, and we bankrolled everything we had and more to do that. And again, another important dot for challenging us and actually, motivating us to make the mortgage payments, to be honest. And then I started a millwork business with a partner. I'd been in the kitchen cabinet business. I knew something about manufacturing and wood products, and so I started a company called American Millwork with a partner, and actually we did quite well. We became the largest hardwood molding mill in the country, based in Elkhart, Indiana, by the way. And he was the manufacturing guy. I was the sales, marketing, and technology guy. And back then, we used spreadsheets on the original compact, luggable to manage the shop floor and do all the optimizations. And, it ran out of gas, and I said to my partner, hey, I'm going to go find some software to do this for us. He said, okay. I came back, and I said, hey, the bad news, there's no software. And he said, what are we going to do now? And I said, well, I'll write the software. And he said, do you know how to do that? I said, no, but how hard could it be? And, in the spirit of necessity being the mother of invention, I jumped in. And, the first step I took was I said, I'm going to build this thing with the mumps language. How many people even know what mumps language is, okay? So it's great for doing simulations, and, and it ran on the Macintosh platform. And back then, Macintosh at that sort of bare metal level was way more powerful than any PC because it had a 32-bit processor and architecture, and you could, get lots more throughput. So I chose mumps, and I broke my pick on mumps. So I went back and found a fantastic second and third generation language and built it on that. And it made, all the difference in the world in our business. And I said to my partner, hey, I love this software stuff. I got to get out of the hardwood and get into the software, sort of thing. I don't know exactly how to do it, but I'm going to do that. And that's when, my family started to come along, and thankfully my wife could support, the risks I was taking because she had a real job at that time then working for Johnson & Johnson, and then I could explore. I could, try lots of things, and I did. One of those things, before I actually got in the software business, because I didn't really know how to get into it, is I, with another partner, started an Apple dealership. And, I was selling hardwood during the week, and then on the weekends I got a part-time job selling Apple computers at a retail store to try to learn about it, about the business. So again, another dot that was a really important one in my life that then gave me the transition, to my first software company. And the product's name was Syzygy. Does anyone know what a Syzygy is? Okay, a Syzygy is when the sun, the earth, and the moon are in physical alignment. Okay? And so we made, so our software was actually business project management software that allowed you to, define projects, tasks, ownership, and communications. And we were one of the early groupware products that were built on network infrastructure. And it was fantastic, but we failed, actually. We failed, but one of the things that happened along the way is a man whose name is Bert Goldberg took an interest in me as an entrepreneur. He had been a 28-year veteran of IBM. He retired, and he decided to dedicate the rest of his life to, helping entrepreneurs. And I was lucky enough to meet him, and Bert did amazing things to advise me. But, one of the things that he left me with is something that I'll share with you. And he said, Mark, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. I had no idea what he was telling me. All right? And it was years later that I realized, after going through some cycles, some ups and some downs, that what Bert was saying is, chop wood and carry water, be who you are always, no matter in the good times and the bad times. All right? And he left me with that, and here it is now. That would have been 1985 or 6, and here I am that many years later relaying that to you. That's how big a deal he was as a mentor. And I joined this company called Land Systems, and met someone who believed in me. Here I was coming off a failure, and someone actually believed in me. I had failed, all right? But yet this guy believed in me. And he ended up being the guy that introduced me to Citrix. And I, joined Citrix and found another mentor, and that's our first CEO, my predecessor, Roger Roberts, who, is a really special man who retired in 1999. and was and still is, the most important mentor of my life. And at Citrix, it hasn't always been up and to the right. In fact, the first time I met the company was in 1993. I came for an interview, and the team didn't like me. They said, no, we want someone different, someone better, someone with a better pedigree and resume. And a couple of years later, Roger called me back and said, hey, you want to take another run at this? And I did, and I got hired and recruited. And then, in 2000, I was named CEO in 1999. In 2000, in the June of 2000, we completely missed our Wall Street expectations, and the value of Citrix plummeted overnight by 60%. And it was an ugly time. And the board, decided that we needed to get some new leadership. So I was demoted to senior executive officer, president and a senior executive officer. My day-to-day job didn't change, but my day-to-day credibility, my day-to-day respect of the team did change radically during that time. And, we looked for a replacement for about a year, and, we straightened things out. And, I was reinstated about, less than a year, about 11 months later, and got that sense of redemption that has given me the kind of conviction, I'd say, and set of learnings from that that's been incredibly important over the last 10, 11 years since then. So these are the dots that I've connected over these many years. And before I get to this, and so all I want you to take away from this is you can see a career. It looks all great. Wow, I mean, I've had so much fun, and it's been so amazing an experience, but it's been complete with zigs and zags and ups and downs and making bad choices and then recovering from those, et cetera. And so don't hold yourself to a higher standard than that. That's what's out there for you. Just when you, as the saying goes, if you fail fast and move on. Okay? Fail fast, move on. And I hear people, and see people day to day in the business, and they want power, and they want control, they want this, and I've learned, and this I learned from my mom, okay, who is, not an artist, but not in a professional sense, but an artist in her own right. She's always this odd, think out of the box, think for yourself, don't do it because someone else is doing it kind of person. And what she, not her words, but what she taught is that the most powerful thing you can be in your life is yourself, okay? And to be yourself, it's like, know yourself, what you're good at, what you like, what you don't like, and don't apologize for that, and don't hold yourself to something that you're not. And when people let that go and go with, who they are, that's when the magic happens. And I don't care what, pursuit it is. We just watched Jiro Dreams of Sushi for the 4th time. How many of you have seen the movie? Yeah. If you haven't seen this movie, you have to see it, okay? You really do have to see it. In fact, if I wanted to be on the faculty at a school, I would build a course around it because, seriously, because the teachings in this are profound, and it's about a man, his name is Jiro. He's 85 years old, and he has the only 3 Michelin star sushi restaurant in the world, and it's in the Ginza subway station in Tokyo, and it holds 9 people, okay? And it's his story about his pursuit of perfection around his passion and the passion he has for sushi, and he has dreams of sushi, right? And how to make it better and better and better and better. And it's an amazing movie where you learn his philosophies, and you learn how he's put those philosophies into practice and created, a special business that he's proud of and that he's, handing on to his sons and and how he demonstrates his value system. It really is really a beautiful movie. And by the way, if you don't like sushi, you should watch it, because at the end you will like sushi. But whether you like sushi or not, see it. I think it'll make a difference if you listen to it and watch it a few times like I have. So, be yourself. Know yourself. So, last ugly picture of me in college, okay? So, here I am. You can see it says September 1972 at NC State. And I look at that, and I had definitely a different hairdo back then, all right? But when I look at that person and I look in the eyes, I see the same person I am today, and I've, come to be this person that what I'm about is, a few things. I'm a pragmatic optimist. I try to see the silver lining in clouds, and I create. I can distort reality around that to actually see the best in something and see the positive and see the opportunity. Second is smile, and I think smiling is about what's inside of you, and I think it's about the confidence in how you feel about the world and those you're with. And I love people. I love engagement. I love connection with people. And it's a core part of me. And the third is passion. When I believe in something, even when it's right or when it's wrong, get out of the way, because I know I'm a dangerous force. If I want to buy a car, I will figure out why I must have it. I must have it. And my wife has learned to stand back when it comes to things like that. And I think that's not uncommon, by the way. People justify the things they want by describing why they need, okay? And so passion, that's what I'm about. And I think it's being yourself that's really important at a time when you look out into the world and you look into the future and you're pondering, where am I going to go, all right? It's a big universe out there. And on one hand, it's scary, because it's ambiguous. These are really odd and volatile times, I'd say. And on the other hand, there's never been more opportunity for people who have the passion, understand themselves, and are willing to go for it. And so when you look out there, you get a chance to choose the points of light that make sense to you over the course of a lifetime. And those things, you can start to draw a picture and actually, connect the dots that, will draw the picture of growth, okay? And of, this whole idea of being yourself and going with it over the course of an entire life. And, and not yield to the most powerful force. It isn't the most powerful force. I'm going to tell you what the most powerful, but a really powerful force in the world, and it's inertia. And the definition for me of inertia is doing today what I did yesterday, whether that's being a person or being or a company. And why? Well, it worked out yesterday. Why not today? And if you string those together, you'll be on a straight line, and you won't be able to connect the dots. And so I've come to learn that inertia is not the most powerful force in the universe, and that belief actually trumps everything. So the math formula looks something like this, that belief, trumps and is greater than inertia. But, you have to know your beliefs. You have to have the courage and conviction to embrace them and pursue them. And with that, you'll have an amazing set of opportunities and journey. And I wish you all, individually and collectively, even just a fraction of the blessings and the journey that I've had, where I've been so fortunate along the way. And there's lots and lots more to do. But I wish you, the very, very best. And I hope that even one shred, if you remember one thing that I've rambled about for the last hour, then I will have accomplished my goal in trying to give a gift of some kind to you as you're at the front end of your career and your journey in your life. So thank you very much. I don't know if we have some time for questions. I know we're going to have a reception, and I'm going to hang out here, okay, with you. So thank you very much.
So, as you heard, there is a reception right after that, but before we go, I want to give Mark a certificate of his participation in our seminar lecture series. This is to remember us.
How beautiful.
And I have to tell you, just going through your career, I experienced such a roller coaster that I figured I have to run to the bathroom. Not to look in the mirror, you know why. But
Thank
anyway,
you,
thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Andreas. Thank you very much. This is wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
So, how about one or two questions, and then we can continue discussing with Mark at the reception.
Just put this here.
Yes.
One of your slides said only to be a student.
Yes.
At this point in your career, how do you feel that you are a student?
Wow, in a huge way, okay? I'm very curious, and I start with having a personal experience with technologies of all the shapes and sizes. So here's my Pebble watch, okay? I've got my new double robotics, and I've got my Google Glass, and, so I'm always a student trying to study, the ideas of others to see what's on their mind and have a personal experience with it. I can tell you that, I find that we've had some massive debates at Citrix across the years, for example, around supporting, how we support Linux at the desktop, or, I remember, a big passionate debate about supporting the WAP protocol, all right? And, a bunch of the guys came in and they said, we're gonna crash if we don't support WAP. And I didn't know anything about it at the time. So, and what I did is I went out and bought a WAP phone and tried it myself, okay? And was a student of it. And then I said, all right, let's all get back together. And we did. And I said, hey, everybody get their WAP phones out. One other guy had one. And, everyone had these passionate opinions. And I said, so where are your opinions? Well, blah, blah, blah. I said, you're reading too many books, okay? So being a student is, having that curiosity and wanting to get your hands on it. So there's rarely something new, whether it's software or a piece of hardware or something, the Leap Motion, gesture. I mean, there are so many things that, I want to have a personal experience with them. And that's one example of being a student. I'm a huge believer in role modeling, okay? And to me, it's part of being a student. I said a little earlier that, I grew up in a very modest home. I mean, very modest. My parents still live in it. It's 1,200 square feet, okay? And, I remember going to a dinner and at one point, and wait a minute, there are 3 knives and 3 forks and 2 spoons and 4 glasses and all this stuff. It's like, I don't know, at our house you had a fork and a knife, It's like, what do I do with all this stuff, right? And what you do? You look over and you find someone who you think that you respect and have an admiration for in some way, and you become their student. They become your role model, and so that person would pick up a utensil or whatever, and I'd watch and I'd go and I finished eating a little later, but that was the only downside. Okay, so role models are a big deal, and I've used role models in my life as a student. For Citrix as a company, like what companies do we admire and why? And by the way, you don't have to admire everything about a role model. You can pick and choose the things and then adopt them. Okay? And then you become this amazing hybrid of things, that's a collection of, you're being a student across multiples. I've been, so anyway, without getting into, further, because I don't want to ramble on. So that's how I think of myself as a student, and then always realizing I don't know it all, and living that, and never will. Yes, sir.
When you're talking about your life path, and you're talking about connecting the dots, you mentioned that you made, when you graduated with your MBA, that you made a mistake by going with Rubbermaid.
Yes.
I was just wondering why you thought you made a mistake, or why
Okay.
you felt that way.
Okay, yeah, great question. So I went to Rubbermaid because they offered me the most money. They offered me a marketing job that I actually was quite interested in. Okay, so there wasn't anything wrong with that. It was fine. I got there, and the culture was, shiny suit, blue suede shoe, kind of in your face kind of culture. I didn't respect the people. Okay, and I realized that, pretty quickly, and it's sort of like, hey, if you go into a place and you say, hey, I don't belong here. I mean, I'm not comfortable, and it turns out that I don't think you can possibly do your best. You can be smart, and it's not about IQ, all right? It's about being in an environment where you amplify what you are, and that means, culture matters, it's really at the top. So I realized that. So I did 3 months of sort of a research project, made a recommendation for what we should do. It was to form a new line of business. They said, great, it was wonderful work. So, your new job is to actually have a sales territory driving that strategy that you put out there, okay? And that was my second 3 months, and I just told, and I knew I'd made the right decision when I went into, I talked to them, I told them I was going to resign, etc. And then the head of marketing came out to travel with me on my last, during my last couple of weeks. And after the first day of work, we pulled into the hotel. It was in O'Hare at the Holiday Inn at O'Hare. We pull in, I had a company car, and he said, hey, can I borrow the keys? Because I want to go see my aunt who lives locally. I said, sure, So I handed him the keys, and as soon as he got the keys, he pulled out an envelope and he said, you're fired, okay? And so, that's just not the way you, that's just not the way you treat people, it's like, okay. So I got a confirmation that I'd made a good decision, about the people and the culture and so forth. So that's why it was a mistake. And it was embarrassing, because, others in my class, they went to Goldman Sachs, or they went to, Morgan Stanley, they went to Boston Consulting Group, McKinsey, and all these, they had long careers there. And here, my first, first time out, I crashed. But, as I said, move. Don't stick with a bad decision. Okay.
Well, then, continuing on the discussion, on the 2000, when you were on the company,
Yes.
and you got demoted,
Yes.
how come you stayed there? How come you didn't find something else to question about?
Yeah, two things. At the board meeting where, we made the decision, I said to the board, I got us into this ditch, I'm going to get us out of this ditch, no matter what my title is, okay? And I stayed because I believed in what, in the company, the culture, everything that we're about. I just, had it here, such a love for the company. I mean, I'm not founder of Citrix I've been there 18 years, the company's 24 years old, but I love it like a founder does. Because that's the unique, emotion that a founder has for a business, is they have a love that is, it's unexplainable, So I had that, I'd been there long enough where I had that, and I felt responsible, to lots and lots of people who had lifted me up and supported me, and so, just to cut and run. By the way, that was all the professional advice that I got. You're CEO of a public company, they made this announcement, you're done. So everyone will understand it, you make a graceful exit, you move on. And, so that was all the advice I got, by the way, and I believed, right? And I stayed. It worked out, And by the way, there were 2 candidates that came along. I was part of the interview process, and first guy, that we sort of gelled around. I said, this is a good guy. Let's get this guy. And then, our chairman at the last minute called me up and said, I decided to pull the plug. I said, that's the biggest mistake you've ever made. This is a good guy. It's like, no, he wasn't right. And so his instinct here, was wrong. And so that sent us on another leg of the search. And then when it came down to the second guy, then it was sort of the board decided, hey, it's the guy we know, the guy we don't know. Let's compare them. And, and I took the, I got my epaulets back, and, they didn't even go to the dry cleaner, I put them on and kept going, But, yeah, I think, setbacks, if you look at so many people that have just amazing stories, where they're incredible athletes, business leaders, politicians, governmental leaders, everywhere, they have serious setbacks in their life, and they have more than one, It's those setbacks that really define you and test you. Because anybody can be, smiles during the good times. What defines you is what you are in the most trying of times, And that's just true, And then, hey, look, that's the decision I made with no regrets.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much.
Thank you.